They say the screams could be heard for miles, echoing across valleys so quietly in daylight that travellers questioned whether they were hearing wind or human agony. It is the summer of 1462. You are an Ottoman soldier, one of the countless men in the most powerful military machine the world has ever seen. You have marched under the crescent banner through cities that once believed themselves eternal. You helped shatter the walls of Constantinople. You wear the confidence of an empire on your skin like armour, and now you march into a tiny principality called Wallachia, a scrap of land hardly worth a footnote in the annals of history, ruled by a rebellious prince whose name, at this moment, means nothing to you. This should be easy. A few weeks of marching, a few battles, and the rebellion will be over. But then the wind changes. You smell something thick, rotting, strangely sweet. Your column slows. Scouts ride ahead and do not return, the officers whisper. The horses snort uneasily. And as your unit crests a low hill overlooking the capital of Târgoviște, you finally understand why. Below you is a forest, but not of trees. They are human beings, thousands of them. Your brothers, your comrades, lifted into the sky on tall wooden stakes, their bodies arranged in perfect geometric rows stretching toward the horizon. Some corpses have blackened in the sun, bloated and splitting open. Others are still trembling, still breathing, still alive. Somewhere among them, one man lets out a sound that is half moan, half plea, and the air vibrates with it. Your Sultan, Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, the breaker of empires, rides to the front of the column, stares for a long silent moment, and then, without a word, orders the entire army to turn around. In that single moment you understand something that no story, no map, no order could prepare you for. You're not marching against a normal prince. You're marching against a mind shaped by terror and forged into something far more dangerous, a man who understood that fear is a weapon sharper than any blade. And here is the part that should terrify you. What you are witnessing is not madness. It is strategy. Cold, calculated, psychological warfare executed with surgical precision. The story the world tells about Vlad the Impaler barely scratches the surface, not because the stories are false, but because the truth is so much more disturbing. To understand how a child becomes the architect of such horrors, you must go back 20 years to 1442. Vlad is 11 years old when his father, Vlad II Dracula, yes, the dragon, makes a desperate political bargain with the one power no ruler in Eastern Europe dares challenge, the Ottoman Empire. In exchange for keeping his throne, Dracula agrees to hand over his two youngest sons, Vlad and Radu, as hostages. Not symbolic hostages, living insurance, breathing collateral. The boys are taken from Wallachia and delivered to the Ottoman court in Edirne, surrounded by wealth, scholars and military discipline. They study philosophy, Turkish, Arabic, mathematics, the Quran. But beneath this elegant surface lies a hard truth that most history books soften. They were being moulded, broken, reshaped. What appears as elite education is, in reality, psychological conditioning. Vlad spends the most formative years of his life watching his captors rule through deliberate terror. He sees executions conducted with theatrical precision. Executions meant not to punish, but to traumatize entire provinces. He learns that cruelty, strategically displayed, can stabilize an empire. And as he watches, a new ideology takes shape in his young mind. Fear is power. Control is survival. Mercy is a liability. Yet even as he absorbs these lessons, he refuses to bend to them. Where his younger brother Radu adapts, even befriends the young Mehmed II, Vlad remains defiant. Ottoman court records describe him as rebellious, frequently punished, sometimes beaten. Whether he was tortured is uncertain, but something irreversible happened inside him. The child who entered the palace confused and frightened emerged 6 years later with a rigid, almost obsessive worldview. He had learned to see the human psyche the way a blacksmith sees metal. Lock a boy in fear long enough, and he will forge fear into something weapon-like. When he returns to Wallachia briefly at 17, fate delivers its final blow. Within 2 months, his father is assassinated by rival Boyars, nobles driven by greed and foreign influence. His older brother is captured and buried alive, and Vlad, alone and unsupported, flees into exile. It is in this exile, simmering with humiliation and rage, that he shapes the ideology that will define him. He spends 6 years studying the vulnerabilities of kingdoms, the weaknesses of armies, and the fragility of loyalty. When he finally seizes Wallachia's throne in 1456, backed by Hungarian forces, he carries with him a vision forged from trauma. To rule Wallachia, he must break the cycle that destroyed his family, obliterate the Boyar class, and replace a fractured state with absolute, unquestionable authority. His coronation feast reveals precisely how he intends to do this. Hundreds of boyars arrive dressed in opulence, ready to proclaim loyalty they do not mean. Vlad stands at the head of the hall, listens to them boast about how many princes they have survived, 7, 10, even more, and smiles. Then he orders every one of them seized. The older nobles, the ringleaders of past betrayals, are dragged outside and impaled immediately, not in a quick, merciful fashion. No, these impalements are engineered, stakes rounded, oiled, angled to avoid vital organs, a slow, deliberate death lasting hours, sometimes days. Their screams rise like a macabre choir as Vlad turns to the younger, stronger boyars. He does not kill them, not yet. Instead, he marches them 50 miles to the ruins of Ponari Castle and commands them to rebuild it stone by stone. Many die. The survivors become new nobles, bound to him by fear rather than lineage. In a single stroke, he destroys the old aristocracy and constructs a new one entirely dependent on him. It is a demonstration of his emerging philosophy. Terror is not merely punishment, it is restructuring. Terror is governance. But the world beyond Wallachia is shifting, and the Ottomans, his childhood captors, are watching him closely. In 1459, Sultan Mehmed II sends envoys demanding tribute. They politely refuse to remove their turbans, following Ottoman custom. Vlad listens to their explanation, nods thoughtfully, and then orders their turbans nailed to their skulls. Not killing them, mutilating them, sending them back as walking messages, living, bleeding warnings that Mehmed cannot ignore. Diplomacy collapses instantly. War becomes inevitable. But before the Ottoman army arrives, Vlad begins preparing Wallachia in a way no European ruler has ever attempted. He understands he cannot defeat Mehmed's army in open battle, so he prepares to defeat their minds instead. He empties villages, poisons wells, burns fields, seizes livestock, and transforms Wallachia into a wasteland. His people vanish into forests, his soldiers train for guerrilla warfare. When the Ottoman army crosses the Danube, they find nothing but ruins, and then the night attacks begin. Small Wallachian units strike Ottoman camps like phantoms, silent, coordinated, vanishing before dawn. They target food, ammunition, horses, officers. The goal is simple: fray nerves, erode confidence, and unravel morale inch by inch. And then comes the night of June 17th, 1462. Vlad leads 10,000 men into the heart of the Ottoman camp in an attempt to assassinate Mehmed himself. The fighting is close, chaotic, illuminated by fire and terror. Some chroniclers claim Vlad and Mehmed saw each other through the smoke, separated only by the janissaries. Whether this happened or not, the psychological impact is unquestionable. When dawn breaks, Mehmed realizes how close he came to death. His soldiers whisper that their enemy moves like a demon, knows their language, wears their uniforms, slips in and out of their ranks as though made of smoke. Paranoia spreads. Exhaustion deepens. And then, in late June, Mehmed's men crest a hill near Târgoviște and see the forest. The soldiers stare down at a landscape that no human mind was built to comprehend. For weeks they have marched through scorched villages and poisoned wells, ambushed at night, deprived of rest, haunted by rumours of a prince who fights like a phantom. But nothing prepares them for this. Below them is the Forest of the Impaled, a grotesque masterpiece of terror stretching almost 2 miles in length and half a mile in width. The stakes are arranged with the precision of a military formation, geometric rows, concentric circles, star-like patterns visible from the heights. It is not chaos, it is choreography. Every corpse is placed with intention. Thousands of Ottoman prisoners captured in earlier raids have been impaled here. Some recently, their bodies still twitching, others rotting in the heat, limbs swollen and splitting, some silent, others still moaning softly in voices that barely sound human. The smell saturates the air, sickly, sweet, overwhelming, and even hardened veterans gag behind their hands. Horses rear, men fall to their knees retching, others quietly weep. This is no battlefield. It is a psychological strike delivered with devastating efficiency. At the centre of it all, on the tallest stake dressed in tattered remnants of his command uniform, is Hamza Pasha, one of Mehmed's esteemed commanders. The message could not be clearer. I can take your best, I can break your army, I can reach your leaders. Imagine what I can do to you. For all his conquests, for all his military brilliance, Mehmed II finds himself staring at something he has never faced before. A ruler who learned the Ottoman language of terror and perfected it into something the empire itself could not match. Contemporary accounts describe the Sultan halting his horse, scanning the forest in stunned silence. Chalkokondyles, the Byzantine chronicler, records that Mehmed finally muttered, "It is not possible to take the country from a man who does such things." This is not admiration. It is recognition of a threat so absolute that even the conqueror of Constantinople understands the cost of pressing forward. His commanders beg him to retreat. His soldiers begin deserting in the night, and so, only weeks after entering Wallachian territory with the largest army Eastern Europe has ever seen, the Ottomans turn around, not defeated by military might, but by the crushing psychological weight of terror deployed with mathematical coldness. Vlad the Impaler has achieved what no European ruler could. He has stopped an empire with fear. But here is the deeper tragedy of his story. The same mechanisms of terror that saved his throne now consume it. With the external threat temporarily repelled, Vlad turns the machinery of fear inward. Any boyar suspected of disloyalty is impaled. Merchants caught manipulating prices are impaled. Entire villages accused of hiding bandits are impaled. His system of rule has only one tool, and once a leader relies entirely on terror, every problem begins to look like an excuse for cruelty. His allies begin to fear him, his people begin to despise him, and his younger brother Radu, beautiful, charming, raised under Ottoman favour, returns backed by Ottoman gold and troops as the reasonable alternative. The same Mehmed who could not defeat Vlad militarily decides to destroy him politically. By late 1462, the internal pressure becomes unbearable. Vlad's support collapses. The Hungarians, once his allies, now treat him as a liability. In November, he flees into Transylvania hoping for protection from King Matthias Corvinus. Instead, he is arrested. The official reason? Alleged secret negotiations with the Ottomans, accusations likely forged by Matthias to justify removing a dangerous, unpredictable neighbour. And so, Vlad, the man who brought the Ottoman war machine to a halt, finds himself imprisoned by the very Christian king whose borders he had protected. For 12 years he remains in captivity, but this imprisonment is nothing like his childhood in the Ottoman court. He is not beaten or starved. He lives in comfortable quarters. He hunts. He studies. He even marries a noblewoman related to the Hungarian king and fathers children. Strangely, by the accounts of those around him, Vlad becomes calmer, more thoughtful, more disciplined, a man capable of restraint when stripped of power. Then, in 1476, after years of political instability in Wallachia, everything shifts. Stephen the Great of Moldavia, one of the most respected princes in Eastern Europe, believes that only Vlad can stabilize the region. With Hungarian approval and Moldavian troops, Vlad returns to Wallachia and reclaims the throne for a third time. This final reign is short, only 2 months, and eerily quiet. There are no major massacres, no purges, no theatrical executions. It is as if the terror that defined him has burned itself out. But his enemies have not forgotten him. In December 1476, or early 1477, while marching with a small force, Vlad is ambushed by an Ottoman detachment. Some sources say he was betrayed by his own men. Others claim he fought fiercely until overwhelmed. What is certain is his death. His body is hacked apart, his head is cut off, packed in honey to preserve it and sent to Constantinople. In a moment drenched in symbolism, the Sultan who once retreated before him now displays Vlad's head impaled on a spike outside the city walls, a trophy shown to the crowds. The terror that once protected Vlad has turned on him. The empire he once frightened now celebrates his downfall. It is a final, crushing irony. The master of impalement ends his life as the impaled. Yet Vlad's story does not end with his death. His grave is a mystery. A tomb at Snagov Monastery supposedly held his remains, but excavations in the 1930s revealed nothing. Some speculate he was secretly reburied elsewhere. Others claim his body was taken by enemies. The absence of his remains only amplifies his legend. Over centuries, European pamphlets, many written by Vlad's political enemies, circulate exaggerated accounts of his atrocities. Woodcuts showing him dining among the impaled, impaling thousands at a time, mutilating prisoners. The rise of the printing press turns him into one of history's first mass-produced villains. And then, in 1897, Bram Stoker borrows his name, distorts it, and binds it forever to a supernatural myth, Dracula. Overnight, the historical figure becomes a literary monster. A man defined by political trauma and psychological warfare becomes a vampire, who drinks blood. A complex ruler becomes a caricature, and in that transformation the real horror of his story becomes easy to ignore. Because the true terror of Vlad the Impaler is not the gore, not the thousands impaled, not the chilling accounts of his cruelty. The true terror is this: everything he did was human, terrifyingly, painfully human. Vlad was not born a monster. He was shaped into one. He was a child used as political currency, raised among executions designed to control minds, trapped in a world where fear was the language of power. He absorbed that language, he refined it, and he deployed it with a genius that horrifies us precisely because we understand its effectiveness. Modern psychology, military strategy, and propaganda studies all confirm what Vlad intuitively understood centuries ago. Fear spreads faster than reason, lasts longer than memory, and destroys certainty in ways armies cannot. A single act of terror witnessed by a few becomes a story told by thousands. Vlad did not need to kill armies. He needed to make armies believe they would die. This is why his legacy matters, not because he was brutal, but because his brutality worked. He defeated an empire with psychological warfare centuries before the term existed. He manipulated perception, weaponized suffering, controlled narrative, and used fear to compensate for military inferiority. And this forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The darkest chapters of history are not written by inhuman monsters. They are written by human beings who understand how to break other human beings. Vlad understood that better than anyone of his time. So when people ask whether Vlad the Impaler was evil, they are asking the wrong question. The real question is, what does it say about human nature that terror, applied with enough precision, can reshape empires? What does it say about us that such strategies succeeded so completely? And what other horrors, calculated, methodical, chillingly effective, lie hidden in history's shadows, waiting for us to examine them without the comforting mask of myth? If you want to continue exploring the parts of history we're not supposed to forget, the stories textbooks sanitize, the psychology behind horror, the human forces that bend nations, then subscribe. Because the real lessons aren't in what happened, they're in why it worked.